He was buried alive. For 3 days, no food, no water, just darkness and the sound of his own breathing. It echoed in that wooden box, like a drum beat counting down to death. He could feel the dirt pressing down. Above him, around him, crushing the air from his lungs, every breath became a battle. His fingers clawed at the coffin lid, nails cracked, skin tore, but he couldn't break free. He screamed until his voice gave out. Then he wept in silence. Alone, buried beneath 6 feet of lies. This is not fiction. This happened in America. In the 21st century, a man was placed in a coffin while still alive and left to die, not by a cult, not in a war zone, but by people who claimed to love him, to protect him, to care for him. The truth? They wanted him gone. To care for him. The truth? They wanted him gone. And they thought they had erased him forever. But something went wrong. The ground shifted, rain softened the soil, a tree root cracked the casket, and somehow he survived. This is the story of Marcus Holloway, a quiet man, a kind man, a man few noticed until he vanished and then reappeared. 3 days later, crawling from the earth, covered in mud, barely human, but alive, and screaming one name. Emily. That name would unravel everything, because Emily was his sister. She planned the burial. She called it mercy. She said he was suffering. She said he begged for it. But Marcus never spoke those words. He was drugged, tricked, locked in a room for weeks, declared brain dead by a corrupt doctor, signed off by a crooked judge. All so Emily could inherit his fortune, $2 million, left by their parents, held in trust, only released upon death, or legal declaration of death. Emily made sure both happened. She hired a funeral home, paid under the table, used fake documents, faked a will, even forged a suicide note. She told neighbors he'd been depressed, said he couldn't handle losing their mom. No one questioned her. Why would they? She was the grieving sister, strong, calm, always helping others, volunteered at shelters, donated to charities, wore soft sweaters and smiled often. But behind closed doors? Cold, calculating. Obsessed with control, Marcus saw it first when she poisoned their dog, claimed it died of old age. But Marcus found the pills, hidden in her nightstand. He confronted her. She laughed. Then she changed. Stopped speaking to him, cut him off from family accounts, isolated him, moved into his house, said she was helping. Then one night, he woke up, hands tied, mouth taped, needle in his arm, the world blurred. Voices whispered, "Goodbye, Marcus." Then nothing. Darkness. Who saw movement in the cemetery, thought it was an animal, then heard scratching, followed by a hand, breaking through the soil. He froze, then ran, called 911. First responders arrived, dug fast, pulled Marcus out. He was unrecognizable, skin pale, eyes wide, muttering, "Emily, Emily!" Medics rushed him to the hospital. Doctors were stunned. How did he survive? 3 days without water. In a sealed coffin? One theorized shock slowed his metabolism. Another said sheer will kept him alive. Either way, he lived, and within hours he gave a statement. Named Emily, named the doctor, named the funeral director. Names were checked, records pulled, red flags everywhere. The death certificate? Forged. The will, notarized by someone suspended 2 years prior. The suicide note? Typed on Emily's laptop. Same font, same spacing. Digital traces remained. Then the security footage from a gas station 3 blocks from the cemetery shows Emily arguing with a man in a black van. License plate traced. Belonged to Dr. Raymond Cole. Medical license revoked for patient abuse and illegal sedation. Cole had no business treating Marcus. Never met him. Yet signed the brain death form for $20,000. Cash, hand-delivered by Emily. The funeral home closed down. Owner fled. But records found in a dumpster showed payment for burial of Marcus Holloway. Date, same day he was kidnapped. Plot number 47, Section C, Greenwood Cemetery, exactly where the jogger found him, alive. Evidence mounted, fast. Detectives moved. Fast. Detectives moved. Arrested Emily at her condo. She didn't resist, sat calmly. Said she had a right, that Marcus was already gone. That wasn't Marcus, she said. It was a body. The man I knew died months ago. She claimed he stopped eating, stopped talking, lay in bed for weeks. Doctors agreed, but detectives found medical files. Marcus visited a clinic 2 weeks before the burial. Diagnosis: minor depression. Prescribed light therapy and weekly counseling. No mention of brain death, no terminal illness, nothing. Emily lied. To doctors, to courts, to everyone, even herself. She believed her lie so deeply. She convinced others. Power of persuasion mixed with greed and fear. Fear of being poor, of losing status, of becoming invisible. Marcus was in her way. He refused to sell the house. Marcus was in her way. Refused to give her money. Refused to disappear. So she made him do it. Permanently, or so she thought. Now he was back and awake. Recovery took weeks. Physical wounds healed. Scars remained, but the mental damage deeper. He had nightmares every night, trapped again, in the dark, heart racing, sweating, gasping. Therapists worked with him, slowly, gave him tools, breathing exercises, grounding techniques, but nothing erased the memory of lying there, waiting to die, wondering why. Why would his sister, after their parents died, they promised to stick together through everything. They were all each other had, or so he thought. Now he questioned every memory, every hug, every birthday. Was any of it real, or just part of the act? The trial began 6 months after the burial. National news covered it. Woman tries to bury brother alive. Sister or monster. $1 million grave. Emily pleaded not guilty, insisted Marcus was already dead, said she followed protocol. Her lawyer argued diminished capacity, claimed she suffered trauma from watching Marcus decline. The court listened. But the evidence? Overwhelming. Video. Documents. Witnesses. To reduce his sentence, admitted he never examined Marcus, signed the papers blind. For the money. Needed it, had gambling debts. Emily paid half up front, rest after burial. Funeral director confirmed. Emily picked the cheapest casket, said she didn't want a spectacle, told him to bury deep. No visitation, she said. No markers, he wouldn't want attention. Irony. She now sat in a courtroom, under global spotlight. Judge called it premeditated murder, attempted. With extreme malice, sentenced her to 30 years, no parole, minimum. She showed no emotion, stood, adjusted her blazer, walked out, without looking at Marcus. He watched her go, felt nothing, no anger, no relief, just emptiness. The house sold. Proceeds donated to mental health clinics and wrongful death advocates. Marcus moved, changed his name, started over, found peace in quiet places, forest trails, empty beaches, sunrise over lakes. He wrote a book, not about revenge, but about warning, about how easily lives can be erased, by those closest, by systems that fail, by silence. He speaks now, at universities, on panels, to lawmakers pushing for reform, stricter death certification laws, better oversight, mandatory second opinions. Before declaring brain death, his story saved others. A woman in Ohio stopped from being declared dead. Family tried the same. Doctor recognized the signs, called police, because he read Marcus's book. Marcus says that's his purpose now, not to relive the pain, but to prevent it, to be the voice. For those silenced too soon, he still dreams of the coffin, sometimes. But now he wakes up to sunlight, to birdsong, to freedom, and he breathes deeply, fully, gratefully, because every breath is a victory. He was meant to die, buried in silence, forgotten, erased. Instead, he rose from the grave, not as a ghost, not as a myth, but as a man with a myth. But as a man with a myth, as a man with a myth, with message. Trust your instincts, question sudden diagnoses. Guard your documents. Love doesn't justify betrayal. And life is sacred, fragile, precious. Never assume its ending until it truly does. Marcus Holloway lived against all odds, in the dirt, in the dark, in despair, and he came back, not for vengeance, but for truth. His survival shook a system, exposed cracks, inspired change, and reminds us all that even in our weakest moments, when the world feels heavy and hope seems lost, there is strength hidden, waiting to fight, to rise, to breathe again. If you found this story powerful, if it made you think or feel or question, please like and subscribe for more true stories that need to be told.